Why is Twilight Princess your favorite Zelda game? Was a question that had my pre-developed critical thinking baby brain fizzing like pop rocks. I had reasons I could pull from the collective consciousness. The best dungeons, the best characters, atmosphere. But those weren't really the reasons why. They never were. These disparate compliments don't convey what has Twilight Princess cozying up by the fireplace in my hippocampus. I can't just explain it in off-the-cuff brevity while my A Link to the Past guzzling friend cross-examines me. I need to paint it to try to do justice to a beauty that words escape with words. Because it's not about dungeon design or how interesting Zant is, it's about Twilight. There's this one scene, one line that speaks to me from a favorite manga of mine, Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko. In a small boat, two old men float around a sunken city street. Poking out from the water are street lamps that flicker on as the sky grades from orange to purple. One of the old men comments that it's funny how looking at this trash gives him this feeling. The other replies, I think people run on light or sound or something when you get down to it. This line succinctly expresses how my brain operates, this gooey creature addicted to diving inside viscous sensories. Inside my heart is something that needs to be coaxed out to envelop me for a bit. Twilight Princess never fails to do this. From the second the faux camera pans down to Russell and Link taking in a spring and dusk glow. Tell me, do you ever feel a strange sadness as dusk falls? Yeah, bud, I go goo-goo on that shit. My heart is hooked to the ethereal with just these opening lines. It's the only time where we can connect with the lingering regrets of those who have left this world. Buddy, you got me floating just outside my body. Just within its opening minutes is a tone much more contemplative and spiritual than any Zelda prior. Crow's Feet betrays Russell's well-traveled thoughts as his eyes travel/ponder beyond the somatic and says, that is why loneliness always pervades the hour of twilight. Russell's sentiments seep into the air itself. Soporific melancholy hugs the air as they lug their hard-earned wood deeper into their wood country. The twilight lights the characters' skin aglow like their spirits are beginning to leak out. With night, a cycle ends. With morning, a cycle begins. Time to consort with the forest rednecks. This game is a letter rating away from Link making moonshine within its first 30 minutes. The village is buried deep within the forest and intertwines with it. The insides of trees are cored out for villagers to reside in, each home connected by the roots for a tightly knit community hugged within a forest. The villagers even summon forest animals for little tasks. Can you carry the one for me, little guy? The Wii era had this weird propensity for grunge without removing stylization. Super Smash Bros. Brawl Mario got that hard and jaded Linkin Park denim overalls. Twilight Princess has that kind of look to it, but still playful with its exaggerated character design. Hunch's face is sucking itself into his body and out of existence, hunching over an existential fear. He's the first one going blind from the moonshine. Jaggle's body structure is hammery and every part of him has a blunt edge. He tutorializes you like a man and berates you for wasting produce in this economy. Link, we gotta export this shit. You think we can maintain a high quality of living with Bambi shit? His son Tallow adopts this loudness, a boy living life on an impulsive sugar jag, Nick Frost hot fuzz fascination for the aesthetics of Link's heroics rather than the actual spirit of it. Please, Link! Kill something! Every model carries a self-explanatory aura with all its visual details, and so do the world's textures. Childish scribbles on the walls of the Alo household make me extrapolate a little story of Talo chalking up the wall, possessed an anaerobic sugar rush. Over time, the stern scolds of his parents turn into private chuckles, deciding to leave up the drawings. A cute little consistent character detail in contrast to this is how Colin's family has a picture he drew up on the wall as well, but on paper as it should be. Well, also the sundry lady owns more pictures of her missing cat than her own family, which is just a really funny detail. Details, they create this feeling of humanity that envelops the tutorial section to a point I feel like I'm living the mundane yet satisfying days of Link's life. The game wants you to live in it, project your mind into the game. You, Link, is the link in the community. Relied on for goat herding and making sure the goats don't waterboard Fado, destroying a beehive to ensure Honey Nut Cheerios can never be canonized in this country, calling a hawk to snatch a cradle back from a monkey to get a fishing rod to feed a cat to get a slingshot to appease dark curiosity of obsidian-eyed children. You might even have your lovely discussion about diabetes with Wilford Brimley interrupted to wrestle a goat, dusting off your hands and continuing on with your day after secretly injecting him with an anti-insulin serum. I think I'm losing feeling in my hands. With this mundanity, some of Twilight Princess's big ideas are invoked. Contrasts. Malo, he, him capitalized, voice vibrating with bass and snark, contrasts his older but more childish brother who wants to kill a goddamn monkey so bad. Filled with a desire for heroics with the wrong framing, Talo wants the action so bad he puts himself in danger to catch a harmless monkey. He is a smart foil for Colin, the bullied runt of Ordon's children. Colin has a surprising emotional maturity, but his fear keeps him holed up inside himself. Duality is introduced. The monkey is mischievous but ultimately kind as it protected Talo from the monsters. This impish creature comes from an area darkened with superstitions but reveals a hidden alcove of depth. We'll come to know another character like that. One mo, we were herding goats, whistling on horse grass in the springs with your childhood friend, sharing a look of solidarity with her dad at her commanding temper. Also, Link, why can't I eat refined carbs without my vision blurring anymore? Making up with her as Link gets lost in that smile. The ground thunders. The gate literally and figuratively breaks. Moblins crack Link's skull. Ilya's impaled with an arrow. Colin goes limp because poor little heart can't take it. Anxiety builds. Link's vision darts for his friends. He takes off after them and is eclipsed by a wall of pulsing, oozing black and gold. Eldritch fingers shoot out of the blackness and drag him within, his human form unable to hold as he writhes inside out into a beast. Oh my god. Like blowing out a candle, this cozy farming simulator is now suddenly buried underneath a bloody, inky yolk. I felt this scene more viscerally on my most recent revisit. This scoliosis-inducing whiplash was expertly accomplished through the immersive, mundane first stretch. This game might just have the most emotionally impactful inciting incident of a Zelda game because it isn't immediate. What makes me feel the intended emotions in a work of art deeply is contrast, a sloping dynamic range of moods. I don't think the frisson of celebrating with Epona over your victory on King Baldwin can be accomplished without the little moments. Miyamoto has a reputation as a gremlin residing within Nintendo HQ, nails buried high in the wall, waiting to pounce on anything with a scent of vulnerability. I actually find his creative intuition to be interesting even if it's not always agreeable. And in the case of Twilight Princess, I think his request for this 3-day opening sequence to be in the game was sagacious. The warm Sylvan community is replaced with an imp making a dam full of you in a cell of diluted color. Your fellow villagers greeted you with smiles, thanks for your usefulness, and acceptance. Midna meets you with mockery, sardonic comments, puts you beneath her with smacks and straddles. You want answers? I'ma play coy and Morden instead. Also, your friends have been violently abducted and your villagers are idiots. Fuck you. Maybe she'll let me into the Twilight nice and gently at least. Link immediately is not fucking with her. He revs up his wolf growl and scowl every time she pushes him around and treats morbidity with glee or nonchalance. She almost chops his head off and leaves him to fight Shadow Beast by himself. By all rights, I should hate her, but I'm a freak that loves a dark sense of humor. She's got me over here kicking my feet and giggling like a slut. Look at the way she rolls her eyes when Link only lets his guard down after he sees a pretty girl. I understand her, Your Honor. She's a curious presence. In between the shades of abuse is genuine help. She orders you to obtain a sword and shield she obviously can't use, brushes it off by basically saying, well, you can use them, I guess. She has an indirect way of doing things. Yet she also has a special place in her twisted little heart for the suffocating twilight. The soundtrack bubbles and buzzes discordantly, creatures belt out uncanny sounds that I've been obsessed with for a couple decades now. Oh my god, it is the 20th anniversary. I'm recording this. I've seen people say they have strong negative physical reactions to the Twilight realm, and you know what? Fuck yeah, that is true art, taking you out of a lush green into a world that assaults the senses in a helpless form while an imp harasses you, and you haven't even seen a green tunic yet. Now let's make you feel like an isolated freak. Go back home and get rejected by your community in your lupine state. You feel like what it's like to be that monkey, something unconventional like you are a superstition of Farron Woods. Those woods are mystical and haunted, trees so big they could be the first trees of the world. They could be housing spirits from the dawn of the land. They all flow through the habitat of giant interconnected arbor, aerating the forest with sleep. It's like walking through a dream, the light slipping through the trees like another world is poking through the porous threshold. In a daze, a lantern salesman says, "Asa, dude." I notice he has a huge bong equipped to his back. He sells me leftover cannabis water that coin flips, restoring my health or depleting it. I'm imagining his rickety cabin constructed by him in the twilight of his fear and loathing jag that peregrinated him from his rustic family on Zora's River to the other side of Hyrule. I feel like I'm caught in some threshold, like most of Twilight Princess's country. One of the metaphors of Twilight is a period or state of obscurity, ambiguity, or gradual decline. Hyrule feels like it is caught in that liminal state, smoldering in the later stages of mauve decay, even when it isn't literally engulfed in the Twilight realm. Hyrule Castle feels too big for what it holds. Zelda and her soldiers look like a tiny battalion of ants in a throne room, helpless against Zant's big-footed invasion. The empowering martial, A Link to the Past Hyrule Castle theme returns in a slow reverb through the dim shell of what the castle once was. Hyrule Field has abrasions of architecture that have lost their meaning. The scale of the entire world is ballooned to communicate a feeling of emptiness like a painting. Link is yearning for the barn in Christina's world, in the same exact hip-out form, the little twink. The iconic Kakariko has seemingly retrogressed into rickety, haphazardly patched woodwork, metalwork, brick, and stucco embedded in the sides of a dusty, dry gulch. Yet there is an inextricable sense of hominess in the village. Kakariko is built up as a second home in the primary sanctuary of the game. Link's role as a linking force of community is expanded here as Kakariko becomes a hub of sorts for connections throughout Hyrule. Shaman Renato's towering, perfect-haired, compassionate aura is palpable. The first time you even meet him, children that barely know him cling to him for protection. Shoot, even I feel safe looking at this dude. Don't get my straight ass into some revolutionary girl lieutenant situationship now. Renato's cultural literacy, such as with the Gorons and Zoras, and Link's action allow for Kakariko to be the connective tissue for the strewn Hyrule. He even has this old frat friendship with Wilfred Brimley, giving you the opportunity to flesh out this established character from your hometown and the culture of the Gorons. Wilfred says, "Yeah, no fucking shot, you can raw dog wrestle the Gorons. Here are some boots to cheat. You want me to feel guilty about it? They're made of fucking rocks, dude. Grow up." Twilight Princess's Link gets himself into an interesting dynamic with Colin that works to frame his characteristics with nuance. Talo is fascinated with Link's cool aesthetics but misses the forest for the trees. Anytime heroics and courage can be used, he either scoffs and lies about it later, or runs in fear. Colin, however, does neither of these things in those moments where it counts. When it seems hopeless, he hopes. Even without physicality and propensity for violence, he stands up to a pulled pork loving Shrek and his hog. Link's characterization is interesting. The Triforce on his hand suggests he was always chosen by the goddesses, but it honestly feels like a footnote to what he is. A rancher. He communes with birds and horses through song. He really isn't being the twink allegations, come on. But he throws goats, sumo wrestles with Gorons. This is just a dude, the least magical and most practical Link. His heroics feel earnest and human instead of something larger than life, and that is what is communicated through Colin. His name in katakana roughly means young lean. This is what makes the scene where Colin figures out what strength is so powerful, I think. Courage is a decision any human can make, and knowing that, hope carries on the air through pillowy woodwinds of the soundtrack Courage. Strength not through material power, but spirit. Link, working class hero. That is why the Gorons end up fucking with him so much. They're minors and not the ones Donald Trump likes. Their system is predicated on strength. They find the biggest mound of rock and say, "Hey man, lead us." The Goron mines are the only dungeon not affected by a corporeal destitute and instead just recently evacuated methodical, consistent output of clanking metal. The Goron 9 to 5, or more. I'm sure a guy with a flat top, coiled lips and two permanently bared teeth cares about labor laws. I don't really want to work the mines or gut slam every time I want to do something, but I do just want to hang out with these guys. Let me work in the Goron retirement home with the elders, especially the dude smoking out of contraption and the one who thinks he attuned himself to the universe after one ayahuasca retreat. Even when the Gorons are in a generally racist sort of phase, dip into a hot spring with them and they become your best friend. Man, the isolationist policy is not cool, dude. But you guys are chill. It makes sense to me that Malo, brain hooked to invisible cords sending signals from something, rounds up the Gorons to fight against corrupt capitalists and save the village in Hyrule from poverty. In an alternate timeline where I'm not bleeding $50 a year to play F-Zero GX on Switch and not own it, there would be a Zelda game with a Goron designed after Karl Marx. Mellow, brother, we gotta seize the means of production. Where Eldon is a dirt and grime, working class feel, Lanayru province leans into an artistic, self-indulgent feel. The amphitheater of Delphi, Greece, tucked up its draws and peregrinated to Hylia to overlook the glistening view of Lake Hylia and the artistically crafted Great Bridge of Hylia, poking out of a stump of a great big tree. The lake itself is a tourist site, bridges constructed to lead toward the spring of the light spirit to pray, and to take advantage of this traffic, a couple of clowns and a bird set up paid attractions. Otherwise, the place is serene and the end of the long river vein reaching up to the natural habitat of the Zora. The fuzz of white waterfalls, colonnades lit by light, mossy walls, and embedded arabesque work to accentuate Zoras as a little more artistic than the practical Gorons, like their garish weaponry, or the complete dichotomy between the Goron and Zora dungeons. Midna even remarks on preferring the lakebed temple to the Goron mines, before changing her mind over how much more complicated it is. The temple has me swimming through moss and coral angle-formed caverns into shell-fragmented aquamarine architecture, instead of the lie of the American dream. I prefer the vibes here a little bit. Within these three provinces, this Hyrule feels dense, diverse, and multicultural. Twilight to me suggests a spectrum. Light and dark are commonly used as a binary, mutually exclusive symbol, but the existence of Twilight itself contradicts that. Light and dark bleed into one another and mesh to create a spectrum of light. Hyrule contains a potpourri of peoples and their own little cultures. The game contains a tapestry of tones, goofy little guys like a cannon-wielding clown, enterprise-owning birds, 4-year-olds, and stoners. The game also spins you around in your chair until you blur into another tone of eerie avant-garde images sketching the corrupt temptations of power. Darkness hidden within you and those you love. All humans. And there's the epic, the faux orchestra blaring as you take down fell beasts and vast chambers like you ripped out the heart of Grendel. These tones don't clash but somehow weave together to create a game that feels like it organically holds a huge scoping adventure. Within our escapades, walking, swimming, sculling with chickens in the cenote-colored, life-affirming sensories of Lake Hylia. The uncanny, tingling twilight, the heart pitter-pattering through an escort mission, and the cinema epic of clashing with King Bolin. To lull a kakariko with Renato, Colin, and Toma, the the kindness of strangers connecting in soporific hope. Aonuma says that Toma is his favorite character for wholesome reasons, but she's one of my favorites for a lot of the same reasons Renato is. She acts as yet another hub of connections, putting me in touch with the asshole resistance members poking holes in my fit, who do genuinely help you through the second half of the game. Her personality is conveyed extremely well through her short screen time, her towering aplomb conveyed as friendly flirtiness, a commanding and comforting presence, with a little touch of girliness as she runs like a teenage girl after Renato. Her bar is yet another one of those places in the game where I feel my bones relax. But this warmth is juxtaposed against darkness. At first it is this inexplicable otherworldly darkness. A berating selfish imp calls it home but warns you of the danger of its master. It is Link's want to keep it from harming his loved ones and the rest of Hyrule, but you see darkness come through the people of Hyrule. Oftentimes you see it in the mundane details. Hyrule Castle Town is the first town not blanketed in poverty, and the result is self-indulgence everywhere. A price-gouging trinkatorium, a cursed wealth-hoarding cretin, rigged games by some egotistical tingle XP. A scam artist rewards your so generous and stupid donations with a little treat from the morgue. A doctor steals a statue off of Ilya to pay off his debts to Candy Crush. I go into oh-so-wholesome Agatha's castle and feel her shadow riding up my spine, coercing me to give up bugs to finance my adventures. Zant seems like the end-all be-all evil, his slithery, cunning mien, bamboo shoot, bug-eyed mask giving him the inches to impose, and to cover up his hair barbered by Mandark. In trying to get Midna to join him, the mask slips for a moment and sticky, stringy saliva betrays his desperate, lustful nature. This is where we hear his perspective for the first time. Hylians are the light dwellers who oppressed their people. The script is flipped a little here. Zant is a little cuckoo, but makes an interesting point that the punishment given to an entire bloodlines of people may feel excessive. The game isn't overly preachy about the morality of this situation. It leaves a lot ambiguous, but with what is portrayed, I can't help but think that the Twilight got put into an unfair situation by their ancestors' arbiters. Zant basically tells Midna that she will always be rejected by the Light Dwellers, and what happens next sort of proves him right. Stuck as a wolf, my partner damp and dying on my back, the world rejects us. Monsters, we are called, even by the kind Thelma with her flirty smile and gentle aroma. The world is drowning in tears of rain. The kindness of strangers isn't given to the unconventional like us. We have to rely on this game's Murakamian propensity for cats to lead the way to get rid of the wolf curse and heal Midna. At least that is what I, buried in my unthinking mind, thought. That is not what Midna thought. She asks nothing for her, just for Link to be healed so he can save their worlds. In her mortal fatigue, I see Midna at her clearest. She changed so gradually I nearly missed it. Here and there she would actually begin to talk to us, not just venom and text and scrambled English. She gives an opinion on Zelda's privilege, but ultimately expresses she doesn't want harm to come to her. She can't begrudge her for the lot she was given in life. She talks about Zant, her mortal enemy. She freaks out over the Deku Toad because she can't handle gross pimply things. The whole of this partnership was a consistent give and take. You kill shit with a sword and other flamboyant doodads. I help you jump sometimes, give you hints, and say something funny. Let's fucking go. It's as good as any partnership can get. But this sort of unspoken contract makes it hard to see whether the thing she does to help is genuine or just a means to an end. When she says, we can't leave the Zoras frozen in ice, is it out of consideration for them, or what needs to happen for her to get her forbidden power? She comes off as an indirect cynic. At her most direct, she is outwardly dismissive of Zelda and the world of light. The Zelda thing comes off as a bit of a projection later on, as Midna was a princess also usurped by Zant, turned into an imp and humiliated. The quest for the fused shadow was exclaimed by her to be a mission to slap the life out of Zant and return her world to peace. But she never says what she thought to do after. If you look at the blueprints of her plan, it feels a little short-sighted. Step 1, collect ancient evil power. Step 2, kill the shit out of Zant. It's like a person trying to lose weight going on a quest for Ozempic. Her foresight went as far as Zant getting squashed by an Acme anvil. The cutscene she forms her plan in her head to use the fused shadow to take back the light realm isn't framed with resolute compassion. Her smirk is so demented her face tears. It's a plan blinded with indignation. I'ma burn it all. It doesn't seem like she ever considers how she will live after. On her deathbed, she doesn't think of how to live another day, but instead uses her last gasps to help Link. There's an implicit lack of value for her life, whether through how she looks upon herself or the circumstances of her life. Zant wasn't completely right though. Zelda gives up her life just for Midna to live on, a bit of a mirror to Midna as well. And Link is always a darn good dude. Midna changes because of kindness and connection. The change isn't all direct, it's slight ways the body communicates. Instead of assaults, Midna leans on Link's shoulder, caresses his face, calls him by name and asks for help instead of bartering for it. Her scrambled English is less sharp and spunky to a bit softer. The partnership evolves from one of give and take to standing side by side in cutscenes. These different perspectives come together and create changes. Midna grows into a more compassionate person, and Midna does something for us as well. She helps us appreciate the unconventional. Midna is the kaleidoscope you peer through to see the twilight. At the core of the game is a push and pull of light and shadow. There is an assumption that the twilight is this shadow, quote unquote, some abstract evil that exists to be vanquished. But really it is just another form of light lying within its vast spectrum. There is no binary thing that seems different is actually bad. Hyrule's NPCs' bones jitter and clack at the orange film covering the land, while Midna thinks that to eradicate the twilight is a shame. The sentiment feels like it could be that usual taunting antagonism and cynicism, but she elaborates on it later in the game. She doesn't like the view of her realm as one of shadows. That makes it sound so unpleasant. The twilight here holds a serene beauty. You have seen it yourself as the sun sets on this world. Bathed in that light, all the people were pure and gentle. Possibly the most powerful sentiment I took away from this game, finding beauty in the haunting, the unknown, the unfamiliar, the unconventional. Back when the baby brain was piloting this body, one of my strongest impressions of this game was being discomforted by the night theme. The vocals chilled my capillaries. The reaction to this unfamiliar sensation was, but then a pull. A curiosity bouncing around my brain would take me back again and again. As I grew out of my adolescent fears, I would be coaxed by this night theme again and again. It still haunts me, but I love that feeling now. I let it into my soul and found that it does no harm to me. It's just another feeling I can let envelop me for a little bit. Twilight Princess helped manifest a curiosity that then became a tolerance and even love for the unconventional, the unknown, the disturbing at first sight. A ghost of Rutella dissolving to a haunting serenade of water was suffocating once, now it's inviting. The Twilight Realm is uncomfortable, yet it lights the world in a way you can't see outside of it. There was some reputation to this game that expressed that it was Ocarina of Time, but with its conventions mutated into some weird avant-garde painting that made fans go, ew! Heck, even Sario's song is disquieting now. Even outside of that kind of reductive view, why reject its weirdness? Why do we reject things so easily and never let them inside to see how it feels? New, weird ideas. People with slight differences from us. Maybe at the time, Twilight Princess asked a bit more than what Nintendo fans, famously the most mature gamers ever, are comfortable with, and therefore rejected those things. Hard yet arbitrary lines are drawn between good and bad. Midna understands that there are people like Link and Zelda, open-minded and kind, but she has seen people stubborn or misled and corrupted with way too much power as well. The fear of darkness can bring out darkness. The arbiters' grounds are the haunts of Hyrule's exceptional criminals subjected to a cruel fate. It's hard to look at this place and be like, yeah, let me check this off as totally ethical. A place at the end of the world, viewed over the crest of an only reachable by cannon horizon. Wolf legs piston pump over a province of sand to a prison out of sight from judging eyes under an oppressively rippling red halating sun. The moment you step inside, it growls at you like the girl who liked me in middle school. Once tortured flesh haunts as tortured souls, gaunt, leathery-faced ghosts, mummified knights, people bones, and dragon bones. Good things happen to these people. This dungeon is a haunting reminder of the light dwellers' violence, more horrifying than anything in the Twilight. Use a bit of Zelda intertextuality, pick up on fictional, historical iconography, and subtext. Uh-oh! I think they might have genocided the Gerudo. Then Hyrule repurposed this temple as a prison, possibly because two children pointed at the Gerudo's goat and he got put to execution, and they were probably like, dude. Basso and Madredo surfed through this Egyptian tomb inside a Roman Colosseum. Yeah. The later half of this game has these suggestions. Hyrule as it is now is an erosion from the natural passage of time and people's lingering mistakes. Locations that once seemed significant in some way have eroded and been repurposed into another use by natural cycles. Like, what is Snowpeak Mansion? When I think of a single stretch of the game that makes Twilight Princess special, it is this stretch. A disquieting, inciting incident. The Zoras are like, I think there's a fucking monster sneaking in here and taking fish, dude. Talked in his baggy eyes, the royal orphan followed the trail out into the loneliest white of a region. Something is hiding underneath this curtain of snow. A chilly voice carries on the wind with the snowflakes. The instruments themselves are frozen over. At the end of this scent trail of reek fish, I expect to find something terrifying at the end of it. I don't. I find my new best friends. There's memories of us fishing, tossing pigskin, wrapped in aprons, baking cookies, pounding footprints across the length of the beach, flickering in my eyes. The Zoras need some stupid ass earring from Zora royalty to catch a reek fish, and this dude just fucking rips it out from the pool. We snowboard down the mountain to his MTV Cribs level mansion. Yeah. The next dungeon is someone's house abandoned by time and adversely possessed by two chill Russian yetis. Are you just gonna sit there and roll your eyes at this game after that? If you have any sort of human tendencies, no you fucking won't. You're gonna immerse yourself in this place, riding the line of haunting and comforting sensories. Ooh, poltergeists on the cobblestone, oh my. My best friend is concocting the greatest soup ever by intuiting the composition of random ingredients for a sickly wife. She's cute. A forgetful bitch. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to swing on blocky chandeliers amidst the snow dust stippled air glowing lowly with winter light and walk through rooms breathed over in spearmint frost. I wouldn't have been able to experience this respiteful warmth of a gold fireplace in a velvety lounge or see how satisfying the final form of all soup looks in a bottle without risking my life through frostbitten, precarious infrastructure and beasts of winter. Girl, I can forgive you for being corrupted by overfixation on material beauty. It's no problem. Too many games are afraid of following a jump scare with an epic boss fight against ice sculptures to a heartwarming scene of a Yeti redirecting his wife Yeti from obsession over material beauty to connection and love. Your own inner beauty, something that can't be held in hands or words, shown through someone else. Too many games. are afraid of emaciated facebirds on their Wicked 2 press tour having weird as fuck lore integral to the world. These guys are integral to the next 2 dungeons holding the mirror shards, 2 of the oldest places in the game. The Temple of Time really makes me feel just how old and decayed this world is. The temple I know from Ocarina of Time is reclaimed by flittering bugs and birds and spreading moss. I'm gonna wag my finger here a little bit. People ride the Zelda timeline thing here a little bit too rigidly. I think connections between Zelda games create depth, like with this game and Wind Waker. So I'm not hand-waving the Temple of Time not being in the same place as Ocarina of Time. It's just not that relevant to me. Creativity, vibes, and themes shouldn't be overly constrained by consistency. I'm experiencing art, not a textbook. Also, they could have just teleported it with magic. Shut the hell up. The temple was refined, marbled, and retro-futuristic, unrecognizable to Hyrule now with its crumbled Doric and shoddy magnets. What the heck happened? Did someone high up in Hyrule ask the Uka to sap all their resources into creating a chat box that does homework and nothing else worthwhile? And they lifted up their stubby wings in annoyance and fucked back off to the city in the sky? Said city makes for a particularly satisfying dungeon before the final stretch, as it has had the most seeds planted for it. Uku in the Forest Temple is a more terrifying jump scare than Yetta turning Nosferatu, but it is a kind little thing looking for something. The Dogninja rod, so they can go home. You talk to cunny old Shad and he's like, "Oh boy, have you heard about the heavens?" They build up the Uka as being these things that left some of the first fingerprints on Hyrule, which left me with some intrigue. And the answer to my intrigue is more questions. The city in the sky is the most alien, uncanny feeling place in the entire game, with Escherian imagery of faced birds defying your known gravity rules as the soundtrack hums with synth and coos, my brain rising into a viscous ayahuasca cloud. The most unsettling thing is how minimalist this place is despite the intricate technology. Where is the culture? What do the Uka do? They clearly don't repair this place or add to it. Do they just exist within liminal stasis? It's a mystery chilled into my lobes. I love them, but I hope to never see those fuckers again. Drive around anywhere in America and you are bound to see buildings atrophying from absence. Sometimes I think, how did this happen? Why does a place become abandoned, especially when many people could use places to live or work or commune? It usually comes down to some shade of a systemic issue. For some reason or another, the cost to maintain such a structure is needlessly exuberant. The more I learn, the more decomposing structures stand as markers, moldy abrasions of the neglect of society's overlords. It's too inconvenient and not immediately beneficial to them to manage the resources to keep society from decaying. Hyrule might be the same. Evidently, Hyrule's overlords are the type to brush over any serious rethinking of the structure of the world. People trying to get the Triforce, don't ask why they want that power that will change their life. Shove them through a black portal. See how they like it in another dimension. I meet the descendants of this banished tribe, and they are lovely people. They go, "Oh," when I walk by, and I'm like, "Yeah, man, I got you." Zant's indignation for the circumstances of these people feel well placed. It's just unfortunately mixed in with his hunger for power, which must have been so transparent. He must have been acting goofy if people are like, "Zant, why don't you take a step back, buddy? You've been acting awfully unctuous. You're giving Cloy Vizier vibes." Within Zant are two motivations: help his people and power. Two contrasts. After getting rejected by his people and being fed power by a god, fuck him, he thinks. This spiteful ass bitch. That spite literally and figuratively twists him after he literally and figuratively takes off the mask. The just barely above threshold restraint that let him command a scene with power is gone. It only stayed above threshold because he was always in control. He just flicked a wrist, gave a light-skinned stare, and used Ganondorf's sheer power to overwhelm. Without that overwhelming difference in strength, he has no identity or polished skill to utilize against an enemy on an even playing field. Every single skill or idea he had was outsourced from Ganondorf. I always wanted to free Zora's domain, Ganondorf says wistfully. You got it, boss. Zant desperately searches for ideas on how to kill this twink. He borrows his minions' battle schematics, then evolves into Napoleon Dynamite fight choreography. This is what a lot of people in power are like. They are given everything to them from people even more powerful, and then from the people who they were arbitrarily put above. Maybe, I say maybe, the most they can do is put on airs that they are worth this power. But man, I should have known Zant wasn't him the moment I saw him approaching Midna in a flashback. That footwork makes me sick. He is nothing compared to the pure physical presence Ganondorf has. I'm gonna take 1 billion years to stand up because my aura is too heavy, motherfucker. He is the real deal, a scar so hideous Hyrule tried to cover over in darkness. This dude being given his power by one of the goddesses they bend over backwards for is kind of a hard pill to swallow for them. A divine prank, the sages call it, bungling his judgment. Bring out the all reliable, stick him in another dimension. Tell the press we found Bud Light on the moon. But this is a mistake. The darkness they tried to push out of sight festered and broke back out into the light. Ganondorf breaks the surface like a shark out of water. His presence is at friction with this world, a deliberately thrown sledgehammer that shatters the more thoughtful, gray thematics of this game. And that is why he works so well as the final antagonist. By being in disparity with this world, he exerts all the more control. The final dungeon, Hyrule Castle, has its usual low-sensory haunting feel that is in tune with the rest of the game. Then it is slowly overtaken by Ganondorf's overbearing organs. He's infecting this world with his presence. The game knows it. He's pushing Hyrule to break out of the twilight in multiple metaphors, out of this restrained, dimensional, pensive, meditative world and tone, and out of its declining physical state into something even worse. He's a bit predictable compared to the unpredictability of the characters of this game. I'm told stories of a beast running amok just to meet my best friend. King Bulblin is on some Yakuza 0 Kuze persistence, but is ultimately moved by Link's strength and assists him. Even Zant's. Ganondorf's powerful narrative contrast and the usual audio-visual flourish give the final fight so much weight. The princess is puppeted in the torn hollow of Hyrule's once elite and the highest point of the world. Link and Ganon share blows as their other forms, but Link has a partner while Ganondorf scoffed at Zant and his people. The fight has escalated with magic forms, instruments, and horseback battles, but then it comes down to two men with drawn swords, golden light and dark clouds on the horizon broken by lightning. The fight at its most restrained yet most thrilling, a kind of microcosm of the game. Ganon's puny goddess-given black magic muscles are total wimp shit to rancher muscles in a sword lock. To defeat Ganondorf is to reclaim that balance of light and shadow, to move on, to let the day come to an end after being stuck in twilight for so long. Like how a day comes to an end, so should a cycle, death and rebirth. In a final exclamation point of her arc, Midna sacrifices herself for Link and Zelda. This final chapter accentuates the conciliation and understanding Link and Midna formed for each other. We've considered what beauty is from a whole different angle because of her, and she's become compassionate because of Link. Ganondorf used Zant for his own gains, turning him into the worst version of himself and insulted the very people Zant once wanted to bring to light. That's why Zant sacrifices himself too, to kill Ganondorf and end the corruption of the light and twilight. This game is the assumed irreconcilable conciliating. Midna could only exist in the light as a shadow. Link could only exist in the twilight as a wolf. By the end, they exist freely as themselves in both worlds. Their essences have flown into each other and formed them into twilight. When exposed to other people's ideas and cultures, we don't change into the other person, we blend here and there to expand into something greater that isn't possible as an individual. The kindness and acceptance required for this to happen is not something everyone has, unfortunately. There's the stoner guy and Agatha that are more than tolerant with a wolf and imp chilling with them, but there are those who just fear and then wish for power to vanquish their fears. Maybe that is why Midna breaks the mirror. It is cynical and tragic, but it's a human choice made out of consideration for humans. In an Iwata-esque interview, Satoru Iwata and Twilight Princess sub-director Makoto Miyanaga discuss what makes the game feel Zelda-esque. Miyanaga states, "Actually, just the other day I played the game from start right through to the end. Coming to the end of the game, what I felt keenly was that the game is very human. I don't know if human is really the right word here, but what I'm trying to express is that the game is not in the least bit dry. For instance, you might solve a puzzle, but you don't simply feel, so that item and that item used together move that stone slab. Everything in the game is more human than that. I don't think that's a feeling you can get playing other games." Iwata asks him to elaborate more on what makes Zelda feel so human. I wonder, just to pluck an example out of the air, think of when you blow up a rock with a bomb. It doesn't feel digital. I'm not really expressing myself very well, but I feel that all of the developers who worked on their own individual part of the game really put their heart and soul into everything they did. Although everything has been tied together into one game so you can't see the join between the different sections, the care that has gone into each one is clear, and this really adds a great deal to the game. Twilight Princess is tactile, my sensory receptors sighing during every little adventure. Kakariko's running spring creates gentle white noise while the dust gusts tug on Link's tunic to homey woodwinds and low drums. Hold forward on the control stick and feel the most addicting walk cycle ever. Every cave creates a feeling that stays with me, light beaming down into a lowly humming grotto. The cutscene direction is humanly expressive or dreamlike. Shaky cam POVs, slow motion, silent screams, dialogues between the frame, environment, and characters creating symbols and emotion. Every character expression holds a universe of personality. Take out a lantern in a goddamn bomb shop and the proprietor is gonna dunk water on you, pal. The characters change based on the story. The air of a family home exudes worry after they lose their children. Explore Kakariko's Inn of your own volition and find various phases of Colin being nursed back to health by Beth and Luda after saving the former. Tello also changes after this, spending the rest of the game on lookout from a watchtower with an eager Goron just below. The game is breathing. It's like I'm making a connection with another person. Twilight Princess might have been the first game to make me want to blend into another world. I want to join the Yetis and their warmth and the cold, soup and cold air steeped in the walls. The fishing hole is completely optional, yet in it is a place I could spend every day with the most wifeable woman of all time. My body calmly limps into still water. Anuma says that from the beginning to the end, this is a game about throwing goats. And I think that is the most apt way to describe that off-kilter, yet human feel within this game. It's like a dream from long ago still saturating in my nervous system. Twilight is one of those natural mundane phenomena that feels elusive and ephemeral. I've seen the light of the sun fade out many times, and each time the twilight is a little different. It's never the same, maybe the same feeling, but sometimes it isn't. That might be why we want to capture it and express it, but we can't. There's no way to directly capture and bottle it for eternity with words. Twilight might be one of the biggest reasons we invented poetry and painting, to try to grab orange-purple wisps and crystallize it somehow. This game is a playable painting to me, audio-visual poetry, an expression of the things that words can't capture, the moments where I feel connected to the essence of life itself before disappearing like dew in morning rain. Twilight is the only time of day we can intersect with the spirits, connecting to the fleeting lives of this world just for a moment. Midna is the same. the symbol of Twilight Princess. She is here, a whole universe. You can see the stars coming out in the twilight. She reaffirms what is precious about humanity and life. And then she is gone, never to be seen again. My heart swells with something. I can't explain it. I still see the burn she left on my retina, a vision, a wisp, a sensation. Too beautiful for words.